Hello everyone. Today I wanted to discuss something that has been on my mind for a while now. So, as a player, we're always looking to get better. We're always looking to think about how to improve as a player. One of the main things that I find a little bit interesting about Mortal Kombat 11 is Mortal Kombat 11 was one of the first games, in my opinion, to really help you improve if you were getting into the fighting game scene. And I was just actually talking with a friend about this, how one of my big issues with just how Mortal Kombat 11 was structured to some people, or at least how people thought about it, was that they thought that for some reason this game had no fundamental concepts to it. So for example, concepts like Fatal Blow, meter regen, and the Oki system prevented players from getting better. But something I find kind of interesting about the other fighting games, that being, I guess, out of the trio, we could say not Soul Calibur, Tekken and Street Fighter, is that despite Street Fighter having a bad launch, despite Tekken being around for a long time, the main difference that I've noticed with the players there is when you look at some of the videos, I'll type in, this happens all the time, and this might just be because of the sheer amount of experience on the Japanese fighting games. I don't know, that might be the case. I don't think it is. But I'll type in how to get better at fighting games, or philosophy behind fighting games, or strategies behind fighting games. And all of these games are like Strive, Tekken, Street Fighter. The thing that I've noticed, and this is a little bit unfortunate, is that the only place I can really get fighting game philosophy is in some of Rewind's Inside My Minds. And that's not really philosophy or strategy. It's kind of strategy, you know? And then other ones will be Foxy Grandpa's streams or something like that, or some of his character breakdowns. I guess the point that I'm trying to make here is that I think, I don't want to sound harsh, but I kind of have to the NRS community. There's a lot of people, on Twitter and stuff that will say things like, oh, broken game garbage, I can throw people out of pokes, they'll make all these claims, but the thing is, the thing about MK11 is, the game is not random. The game has never been random. It has consistent tops, offline and online. It's not random. Just because you get Fatal Blow at 30%, that doesn't mean it's random. And from my experience as a player, the thing that I find most important as in getting better is consistency. Being able to have good defense, being able to know when to pressure for offense, having a risk-reward ratio. All those things are things you learn playing fighting games, not just MK11. And I don't know how to put this, but MK11, for you guys out here who are learning the game, or you guys who think this game is not very good or it's too easy to play, I just want to say this was the game that you could have gotten really good at, in my opinion. Just from some of the experiences and how I'm slowly starting to understand how fighting games, how you should play as a consistent player. This was the game, and it's unfortunate because I just feel the NRS scene doesn't have the right when I type in something in Google or on YouTube, no NRS video comes up about how to understand RPS, or when to manage your resources, your offensive meter and your crushing blows. None of that stuff comes up, and it's unfortunate that we didn't have someone in the scene that constantly talked about how to get better at fighting games when it comes to NRS games. Because again, the games aren't random. People know what they're doing in these games. They understand the OS tricks. They understand when to take risks. All the good players know this. So it's a little bit unfortunate because I feel we missed out Like, a lot of people missed out on actually getting better at fighting games. This was the game. Like, combos aren't hard. Understanding how the footsie game works isn't hard. Wave dashing's not hard. Understanding how to manage your meter, all that stuff is like not. It's not like it's not difficult, but it's more like it's very fundamentally easy to understand in this game. Like, you can't just get off all your KBs and be amazing. Yeah, you might take a first to 3 set. That's what everyone on Twitter is talking about. Is when someone takes a first to 3 set from you with Sub-Zero. Like, of course they're gonna take a first to 3 set with you with Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero is brain dead as hell. Like, it's so easy to do that. But in a consistent, like, first to 10, if you're losing to a Sub-Zero player, you're losing. Well, you're probably losing because you don't have the right character, but I would argue that you're also losing because, like, there's some things on your end you're not doing well. Like, maybe you're not punishing the slides, maybe you're not reading, okay, this guy's went overhead 5 million times, maybe I should block overhead for fucking once. Like, those are like things like you can get better as a player. Like, it's not everything's 100% random. And I feel like that happened. Like, I feel like this was the game that you could have gotten really, really good at as a player. And I feel like all the fundamentals are here, and you missed out, people missed out on it. And I do blame the NRS scene personally. I think that we're very quick to not focus on improving as players, because I think it's a US thing. I think, like, because like all these other games are Japanese games, right? And some people will say they're legacy, but V-Trigger's not the same thing. Like, the V-Trigger wasn't a thing before. Like, there's so many different new mechanics that they add to these recent fighting games, even though they're Japanese fighting games. So I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think it really just comes down to, like, people who play those other games want to get good. Like, they want. It's not like they want to get good as in they want to beat everyone, because that's the misconception that I feel like NRS scene has, is that you have to win. If you're not winning, you're not getting better. But the thing is, like, I think if you go back to Diago's book, right, he talks about winning is just the fruits of your labor. Your goal as a fighting game player should be to get better as a player, to understand yourself and to learn and to improve your consistency. That's what matters. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're winning, because a bunch of people won in MKX that didn't win in MK11, right? But then you look at players like Rewind, Sonic Fox, Foxy, they were winning in all three, they were winning in all 3 NRS games. So clearly, what that means for them is that they have they've gotten good as players. They understand fundamentally how to play fighting games, and they just have the consistency. And I feel like we're very quick to blame the fighting game that we're currently playing, but I think the issue that you as a player have is that you want to focus on the things you think are limiting you from getting better. But when it really comes down to it, doesn't matter what fighting game you play, you're not going to be good because you're limiting yourself by blaming the game, right? The way you get better at a game, or at fighting games, is understanding fundamentally how to get better as a player. So I guess the whole point that I'm trying to make here is, my biggest issue when comparing scenes, and again, I don't want to bash NRS because this isn't all of NRS, but I have noticed it's more consistent here, and I do think it has to do with the fact that there's a lot of concepts we just don't talk about in the scene. Like things like RPS. I never heard of RPS until I went and explored other fighting games. This is the only game where we don't talk about things like that, like RPS, managing resources, like, those type of fundamentals. Like, we just don't talk about those things. So I guess the whole point I'm trying to make here is that it's not the game, it'll never be the game. Focus on improving as a player. Focus on understanding fighting games fundamentally. So that means MK11, MKX, all the games, Street Fighter V, all of them. Understand how fighting games are supposed to play. And I think you'll get better as a player overall. I think the big issue that we have in the NRS scene is that we want to win. And you don't have to always win. It's not about winning. It's about getting better as a player. So anyway, I figured I would share that. This has been sitting on my mind for a while now, just because, like, all of the strategy and philosophy I have to go to is never NRS. Like, it's never an NRS video. Like, outside of like Foxy. Foxy is like the only person I can think of off the top of my head that gives like actual philosophy behind how to play a fighting game. Whether that be Mortal Kombat or any other fighting game. So, anyway, you guys have fun. Have fun playing MK11, and hopefully this kind of seeped in your brain a little bit. It'll cause you to take more losses and not really care about losing, because I think that's another thing. Like, you know, a lot of players pick the top tier characters and they never really truly understand how a fighting game plays and how to play the spacing game, because they just pick top tier characters. They never really go any further than that, right? I think there's an argument there too, but we'll talk about that some other day. So anyway, I'll see you guys later, and have fun playing fighting games.